The drums didn't wait for sunrise. They rolled through the city like thunder, low and relentless, rattling the clay rooftops, vibrating through the bones of every sleeping child. 10-year-old Iktan froze under his thin blanket. The first beat slammed into his chest. Something in the air had changed. Thick, heavy, wrong. His stomach churned. His hands curled into fists. He tried to convince himself, it's just the market drums. They play early sometimes. But the rhythm, it wasn't for the market. It was deliberate, measured. Iktan's heart thumped faster. He could feel the pulse in his temples, in the soles of his feet, in the very marrow of his bones. A single knock at the door cut through the drumming like a knife. Not angry, not pleading, ceremonial, precise. His mother did not stir. Her eyes were wide but calm, as if she had been expecting this day for years, though Iktan had not. Her hands pressed into the cool earth at her side, trembling before she even touched the door. Iktan's throat went dry. His small legs trembled as he swung his feet off the mat. The door opened. The tallest priest stood there, robe of deep red and gold flowing, face partially hidden by the ceremonial mask. He did not smile. He did not frown. He simply looked at Iktan as though weighing him, a scale in his mind, a life in his hand. "You have been chosen," the priest said. The words sounded soft, almost beautiful, until Iktan realized, chosen does not mean honored. His mother dropped to her knees silently. Her tears came unbidden, streaking the dirt beneath her. She did not cry out. There was no begging. To do so would dishonor the gods. And yet, the sound of her silent sobbing cut Iktan deeper than the drums ever could. Iktan's small chest tightened. He wanted to speak, to protest, to run. But nothing came out. His voice had already been swallowed by the weight of what those two words meant. The priest extended a hand. Warm, steady, commanding. "Come," he said. "It is time." Iktan took a shaky step, then another, and with each drumbeat that rolled through the city, each one thundering through the air and into his bones, he realized something terrifying. There would be no running, no bargaining, no reprieve. He was 10. He had no choice. The morning had chosen him. Iktan's bare feet brushed the cold, uneven stones of the streets. Each step echoed louder than it should, like the city itself was judging him. The drums had not stopped. They followed him, bouncing off the walls, shaking the rooftops, and rattling his chest with every thump. The streets were crowded with people, but their faces blurred together, mostly adults, their eyes lowered, hands gripping each other, murmuring prayers under their breath. A few children watched him with wide eyes. Some stared openly. Some tried to smile. He didn't know if they were mocking him or fearing for themselves. The air smelled of smoke, sweat, and dust. Iktan's nose flared. Each breath felt heavier than the last. He imagined the taste of the air in his lungs turning to iron. He wanted to turn around, to sprint back to the warmth of his home, to the familiar smell of his mother's cooking. But his legs refused. They were trembling, but they moved, step after step, because the priest's hand rested lightly on his shoulder, a gentle weight that reminded him that resistance was useless. The crowd whispered behind him, "Chosen, chosen." The words were soft, almost lost in the drumming, but they felt sharp against his ears. Each whisper cut into him like a knife he couldn't see. He noticed a little girl, maybe 7, being led after another priest. Her lips quivered. Her small hands shook. He wanted to call out to her. He wanted to say, "It's okay. It's okay." But his voice had left him. Fear had stolen it entirely. The city itself seemed alive. Windows rattled. Pots clattered. Birds took flight with panicked cries. Even the walls felt closer, the buildings taller, their shadows reaching toward him like fingers. Iktan imagined them grabbing him, pulling him back, swallowing him whole. Halfway through the path, the first of the elders stepped out of the crowd. He gave a single nod, a silent acknowledgement. No words, but the weight of that nod crushed Iktan more than any spoken sentence could. It was approval, approval of his fate. His chest burned. He wanted to breathe, but each inhale came with the taste of panic, metallic, sharp, bitter. The drums weren't just sound anymore. They were hunger. The city itself was alive, and it wanted him. Iktan caught a glimpse of his mother from the corner of the street. She was kneeling in the dirt, silent, eyes downcast. Not crying, she didn't dare. The sight should have comforted him, but it did the opposite. Her stillness screamed that there was no going back. The steps ahead were rising now, toward the temple. Each one was taller, more commanding. He imagined climbing them, imagining the people above looking down, eyes impassive, judging, expecting him to comply. The priest tightened his hand just slightly on Iktan's shoulder. Not a grip to restrain, just a reminder. Go forward. Iktan's small hands balled into fists at his sides. His nails dug into his palms. Each step was agony, each heartbeat an alarm. A sudden shout from a merchant in the crowd startled him. His legs nearly buckled, but the priest's presence, calm, unflinching, unwavering, reminded him of the rules. To resist was dishonor. To run was death. He forced another step, then another, and as he climbed, he felt the weight of everyone watching. Not just the priests, not just the crowd, but the entire city. Their eyes pressing on him, weighing him, deciding if he was worthy. He wanted, desperately, for someone, anyone, to make a mistake, to break the ritual, to scream at the gods, to stop it. But everyone was quiet. Too quiet. Obedient. Complicit. The drums rose, louder now, in waves that collided with his ribs. His vision blurred. Sweat trickled down his back. The air was thick. He imagined falling, imagined rolling back into the crowd, imagined screaming and no one hearing him. And yet, step after trembling step, he continued. Because 10-year-olds do what adults command. And because hope, tiny, impossible hope, still flickered in his chest. By the time the path flattened and the temple stairs loomed in front of him, impossibly tall, impossibly sacred, Iktan's body shook. Not from the climb, from the realization. He was walking towards something he did not understand. Something final. Something that would change him forever. They led Iktan inside the temple. The air was thick with smoke and incense. Sweet, cloying, suffocating. Each breath burned his lungs. A priest held his chin gently, tilting his head up. "Look at me," he said. His eyes were calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that tells you the storm is coming. Hands, careful, deliberate, washed him with water colder than his blood. Each drop ran down his back like needles. Feathers brushed against his arms. They tickled at first. Then he noticed the bruises on his legs. Old, faded, reminders of others. Children who had come before. Children who had not returned. Sweet honey was pressed to his lips. He tasted it, tried to swallow. The flavor turned bitter in his mouth. He realized why. Every choice, every gift, every smile was a trap. A lie. The attendants moved around him quietly, whispering. One avoided his gaze completely. That was the first sign. Something was wrong. Something final. Iktan's hands clenched. "Does it hurt?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. The attendant froze. A smile trembled on his lips, forced, empty. "It is quick," he said. "Quick." The word echoed in Iktan's chest, louder than the drums, sharper than the cold water on his skin. Quick like lightning. Quick like breath leaving your lungs. Quick like life ending. Iktan swallowed hard. His throat was dry. His heart pounded. Every instinct screamed at him to run. But there was no place to run. Not here. Not ever. Far beneath the temple stairs, his mother stood in the crowd. She could not look away. If she looked away, it meant she did not believe. If she screamed, it meant she doubted the gods. So she stood still, as other mothers had stood before her. The crowd began to chant. The drums intensified. She tried to remember the sound of his laughter. It was already fading beneath the noise. When they led him upward, she saw how small he looked. Not chosen, not divine, just small. Her knees nearly buckled, but she remained upright. Because this was expected, and expectation is heavier than grief. The climb felt endless, each step narrower than the last. The city shrinking below him, the wind stronger, the sky impossibly wide. Iktan's breathing became uneven. He wanted his mother. He wanted to go back to the lake. He wanted the morning before the drums. Halfway up, his legs trembled. A priest steadied him. "You are brave," he said. Iktan did not feel brave. He felt cold. At the top, the stone altar waited, dark, worn smooth by years of ceremonies. He stared at it, and finally, he understood. This was not a blessing. This was an ending. His heart pounded so loudly he could barely hear the chanting. The sky seemed too bright, too open. He searched the crowd. He found her, his mother. She was not crying. That hurt more than anything. He wanted her to scream, to break the rules, to run. But she stood still, because this was how the world worked. He lay back because they guided him to. He did not fight, not because he was fearless, but because he was 10, and 10-year-olds trust adults. Even at the edge of death, the priest raised the ceremonial blade. The chanting reached its peak. For a moment, everything went silent inside him. He thought about the lake. He thought about racing his friends. He thought about whether the sun really needed him. And in that final second, he wished someone had told him it was okay to be afraid. The crowd roared when it was done, not in cruelty, in belief. The priests lifted their arms toward the sky. The sun burned overhead. Life in the city resumed. Markets reopened. Children played. Drums stopped. But his mother did not move. Not when the crowd dispersed. Not when the priests descended. She remained standing, looking at the steps, as if expecting him to run back down. Because mothers live in denial longer than gods do. When she finally walked home, the house felt too large, too quiet. His sandals remained by the door. She did not move them. That night, she lay awake listening, for drums that would never come again. The priests believed. The crowd believed. The empire believed. But belief does not erase loss. It only organizes it. Other mothers would hear the drums. Other children would be chosen. The sun would rise again. History would record it as ritual, as devotion, as cultural necessity. But inside small homes across the city, it was simply this: a child who did not come back before night. The city carried on as if nothing had happened. Markets opened. Birds chirped. Children laughed, unaware. The drums had stopped, but their echo remained, not in the air, but in the hearts of those left behind. His mother sat alone in their house, knees pressed to her chest, staring at the empty sandals by the door. She did not move them. She could not. Every step she took would feel like erasing him. She remembered his laugh, the way he tilted his head when curious, the small hand that once clutched hers tightly on stormy nights. Those memories were now sharper than knives, cutting through the quiet of the house. No one else would speak of it. The priests had their rituals. The city had its laws. But a mother, she carried the truth in silence. She whispered his name once before sleep, hoping he could hear it somewhere beyond the walls, beyond the sky. And maybe, somewhere, he did. For the rest of her days, the world would continue, but she would forever feel the absence. The world moved. She did not. And you, watching this now, you can feel it too. The weight of a child taken too soon. The life that never had the chance to bloom. The quiet grief that the world refuses to acknowledge. If this story reached you, if it stirred something you didn't expect, follow to witness the untold human stories hidden in history. Moments the textbooks forgot, but the heart never will.